The Geth faction, in my opinion, is the easiest to do battle with. They don't have any particularly deadly units, and really all they have to fall back on are their high numbers and the fact that they like to group up and fight as a unit, more than the other two factions. If you're having difficulty with the multiplayer of Mass Effect 3 or looking to move up to a higher difficulty, I would recommend squaring off against the Geth first. None of their units are terribly dangerous or effective, save for their mega unit, and they're really only effective at about medium range. Let's take a closer look at their units. The Geth Trooper is the Geth's basic fodder unit. It is an incredibly simple unit and walks around with nothing but an assault rifle. The Geth Trooper lacks even the ability to throw frag grenades, like the other two armies' basic trooper units. The Geth Trooper poses an incredibly low threat, has very little health, and has a weapon that does not do a whole lot of damage. Like every other basic fodder unit, the Geth will take cover and attempt to close to a reasonably short range with its target, while laying down suppressing fire with the assault rifle. The Geth also has the ability to jump to the side to attempt to avoid incoming powers, but this is not as effective as the commando role of Cerberus' assault trooper. All in all, the Geth troopers are a very low danger and incredibly easy unit to take care of, and should only be disposed of after the more dangerous Geth units. The Rocket Trooper is the shock trooper of the Geth forces. It has about the same health as a standard Geth trooper, and also that much health over again as a shield. The Rocket Troopers are obnoxious because, well, as the name would imply, they shoot rockets. They shoot lots of rockets. The Rocket Trooper will spawn in and attempt to engage its target from long range. It will stand as far back as it can and fire a salvo of 2 rockets at its target before it has to take cover and reload. These rockets do have a fairly large impact radius and are pretty highly damaging. However, they seem to do less damage against your health than they do shield and biotic barriers. A direct dropped rocket was more than capable of taking down my entire shield, but only took down about a third of my health. This is probably a measure put in place by BioWare to prevent insta-jibbing when multiple rocket troopers were firing at players. The Rocket Trooper will never run out of rockets and will continue to try and stay at long range and bombard the player's position with rockets until it is destroyed. As you can expect, this is extremely obnoxious and can make it difficult to set up any sort of defensive position, especially on an objective round. The Rocket Troopers, unlike the Nemesis from Cerberus, will not run from the player if they close, but instead will attempt to melee like a standard Geth Trooper. They can also fire their rockets at short range, but will usually choose to melee instead. Rocket Troopers are incredibly obnoxious and not very difficult to take down, and as such, should be a priority target whenever they are spotted on the battlefield. Hunters are the first of the Geth's 2 specialists. The Hunters function much as they did in Mass Effect 2. They will use their tactical cloak ability offensively to attempt to close distance and get as close as possible to their targets, and then will use their incredibly powerful plasma shotguns to do very, very high damage at close range. The Geth Hunter, interestingly enough, will usually choose not to melee, and some Hunters will not melee at all. Since the Hunter is cloaked, it can be difficult to detect them until they are already in your midst. However, their tactical cloak is not perfect, and you can see a slight flicker in the air where a Geth Hunter is walking, especially as they begin to get closer to you. The Geth will constantly try to close distance between itself and its chosen target. It will attempt to stay as close as possible, even hopping over cover its target is hiding behind to stand literally toe-to-toe with it as it unloads its plasma shotgun. This shotgun does do incredibly high damage, and staying at close range with a Geth Hunter for too long will generally result in your death, so it's best that you try to make distance between yourself and the Hunters as much as possible. It can be difficult to stay away from them due to their tactical cloak, but once they unstealth, you want to try to kill them quickly while moving away without allowing them to slip back into the shadows and stealth again. They have both a health and a shield bar, both of which take a moderately large amount of damage, and if they are allowed to slip away, they will regenerate their shields before they renew their attack. Take these down as they appear, and they won't be a whole lot of a threat to you or your squad. The Pyro is the second of the Geth specialists, and is much more dangerous than the Hunter. It has a moderately strong shield and very high armor, with no actual health bar. Once the pyro's armor is depleted, it will die. The pyro, as the name would imply, will attempt to close with its targets and use a moderate range flamethrower to do incredibly high damage in a cone in front of it. Pyros are most dangerous because while you are being lit on fire by their flamethrower, you're basically blinded. Their fire will fill up your entire screen, and it is difficult to see what is happening while they're firing on you. Since the fire sprays in a cone, they're also more than capable of attacking multiple squad members at once, and in unlucky situations, you can find yourself pinned behind cover with your whole squad being lit on fire from a pyro. Now, since the pyros do have reasonably high health, they may be difficult to kill before they're able to close the flamethrower range. For this reason, it is recommended that below rocket troopers, pyros should be your next focused target. The flamethrower does have longer range than it seems like it should, and they will continue to do extremely high damage even as you move away from them. The pyro is incapable of taking cover, like the hunter, and will constantly just move forward trying to close with its target. Unlike the hunter, it will not move up to melee range of its own will, but it will move up to about 4 to 5 meters away before it starts discharging its flamethrower. They're incredibly easy to pick out as they have bright yellow and red armor at a strong contrast to the rest of the Geth forces. The Geth Prime is the mega unit of the Geth army, and as per all mega units, only one can exist at a time. Like the Atlas mech of the Cerberus faction, the Geth Prime is not an extremely high threat. What the Geth Prime does is serve as a sort of damage sponge for the Geth forces. It has extremely high shields and extremely high armor, with no health bar. Once the Geth Prime's armor is depleted, it will die. The Geth Prime has a wide variety of attacks, but none of them are too particularly dangerous. The Geth will try to focus on summoning its technological backup. It can summon both combat drones and sentry turrets, and will do so extremely frequently. The combat drones will spawn in front of the Geth Prime, and as a result will usually die very quickly, just to the fire that was being directed at the Prime anyway. They're not much of a threat, and even if left to their own devices, do not do a lot of damage. The main threat the drone poses is that, like player combat drones, it can knock its targets out of cover, exposing them to enemy fire. It has extremely low shield though, and no health or armor bars, and will go down very quickly. The sentry turrets are a bit more of a problem, as they are small and float about 4 feet above the ground. They can sometimes be difficult to see, but they don't do a terribly high amount of damage, and like the combat drone, only have a small shield bar and will go down quickly. The main threat of the combat drone and the sentry turret is the Geth Prime will focus on replacing them as quickly as it can, so you will almost always be dealing with either a turret or a combat drone in addition to the Geth Prime. The Prime itself will fire a blaster that it carries, a semi-automatic weapon that does relatively high damage in a small radius. This damage is not nearly as high as most of the other Mega Unit's attacks, and as I said before, the Prime itself is not a huge threat. The biggest problem is that it has so much health, it cannot even be taken down by a single missile on any difficulty other than bronze. It will sponge a lot of fire, and as such will often force players to move from their defensive positions as it closes on them. It's not a major threat, but after the rocket troopers and pyros are taken down, you should focus as much fire as you can on the Prime. And there you have it. Even the most fearsome of foes can easily be taken down with the right strategy. Just remember the tactics and abilities of each foe you face, and you'll have no problem achieving a full extraction. No casualties every time. This is Squiddish, and good hunting to you all.